Hey, it's me, Bastian, and today we're going to talk about essential AI tools to boost your patent attorney practice in 2024. I promise to share the exact AI tools I'm using currently myself in my day to day patent attorney work, and that's what we're going to do in this session today. Basically, there are, from my point of view, three types of tasks where I'm exploring generative AI support these days. And the three tasks are, on the one hand, patent drafting, obviously. Secondly, we have document analysis. That's what we're also going to look into. And number three, we have client communications. Not sure if we have time for all three in this 30-minute session, but let's see how far we can get. As always, I'm recording these sessions live on LinkedIn. So please put your comments and questions into the chat box and I'll try to answer them as we go. And here's a question for you. What's your favorite AI tool at the moment? Doesn't have to be for patent drafting. Let's talk about patent work in general. So what are you doing in the patent industry and what's your favorite AI tool to help you at the moment? What are you exploring? Just drop it in the comments so we can all learn from each other. Okay. So, with that being said, let's just start with topic number one, patent drafting, obviously. So, you may have noticed maybe that AI assisted patent drafting is kind of my passion project these days. And there has been, I would say, some kind of evolution on my own AI patent drafting journey. Basically, it all began when ChatGPT came out, right? In November 2022, I guess it was. I started looking into AI chatbots. Besides ChatGPT, of course, local models. I've posted content about those local AI models. At that time, I have to say they pretty much sucked at patent drafting, very much so. The output was just full of hallucinations, full of weird sentences. They didn't write the way I would draft a patent application. So I thought, well, ChatGPT is nice for private stuff, but for patent drafting, it's basically useless. That was my first beginning, my first baby steps in this space, so to say. Then I was looking further into patent drafting software, right? So dedicated software tools to streamline the patent drafting process. And I was surprised that there were these, one-shot application generators popping up left and right. Basically, every week I got like multiple DMs and posts on LinkedIn advertising a new patent drafting generator. I call them one-shot application generators because the idea is basically you put a set of claims in and you get a draft out, a full draft. That's also for me the biggest problem I have with those tools. I don't use them productively myself because at that time when I was trying out these one-shot application generators, they basically had no way to guide the AI and no way to customize the output. So you just uh, had to throw your claim set in, and you would get a full draft out of it, which was structured the way the tool manufacturer thought a good patent application should look like, but it was never quite the way I would draft it myself. So I never used those one-shot patent application generators myself in my practice. Nevertheless, there is a place for those, of course. So if you want to know more about those patent drafting robots, consider joining one of Martin Schweiger's workshops. I'm pretty sure you will know Martin Schweiger. I put a link to his workshops into the show notes. After this, I kind of turned back to AI chatbots to see whether there was some development going on. I also worked on my prompting skills. So I tried to learn how to provide better input to the AI. and suddenly the results were quite of astonishingly good, I have to say. So I mean, it goes without saying, it should basically be a no-brainer, right? Providing better input improves the output by orders of magnitude, really. So yeah, it was really surprising to me. On the one hand, how the local models got better during, let's say, a time frame of 6 to 10 months, maybe at that time, but also how the results really improved by orders of magnitude when you just feed them with proper inputs, with proper prompts. So what I did is just recently, I don't know if you've seen it, I kind of compressed all I know about prompt engineering into a video course, which you can also find on my website, powerclaim.io. I'll also put a link into the show notes if you're interested in that. At that point, I kind of had a realization when I was using the chatbots more and more during my patent drafting work. And the realization was basically that, um, from my point of view, AI chatbots are quite great for, writing text portions of a draft. But there are at least three severe limitations where I think they really fall short. One limitation is that it's you have, when you're using an offline AI model, or if you're even using ChatGPT, if you want to draft your patents, you always have this back and forth between the chat interface on the one hand and your Word or your text processing program where you are writing your patent application document, right? You always have to switch between the two. There is no real integration. So that's one shortcoming of AI chatbots for patent drafting, I would say. The other really severe shortcoming for me was that there is basically no reasonable or no usable way to create the drawings of a patent. I've never managed to use an AI model, an LLM, a chatbot, in such a way that it creates, simple black and white line drawings, which would be suitable for a patent. And also, and that's a third limitation, um, as far as I know, at least, I mean, there is not really a way to ensure, consistency when you move between parts of the application. See, when you're drafting a patent application, um, I guess if you do it like I do to any degree, it's not really a waterfall process where you finish one part and then you go on to the next, but you kind of, iterate between the different parts. You write the claims first, probably like I do. Yes, then you start drafting the figures and the specification. But then, I mean, you go back and forth between all the parts and change something here and there, and and you have to ensure that everything stays consistent yourself, basically, when you are using AI chat bots, like ChatGPT or local LLMs. So those were basically my realizations using chatbots for patent drafting more and more. Hey, it's great for producing portions of the text of my application, but it's not really a replacement for. It does not fundamentally, streamline the whole working process of drafting a patent application. That's then when I encountered yet another class of patent drafting software, which I call integrated drafting environments. Mm, these tools are more like, I don't know if you have a programming background, maybe to some degree you might know those integrated development environments, IDEs, like, I don't know, Eclipse or PyCharm. Basically, your cockpit where you are developing your code, where you are writing your software code, and those come with all sorts of helpful assistance and helpful plugins and things, little helpers like syntax highlighting autocomplete, compiler integration, version control, things like that. And such tools also exist for the patent drafting profession. I didn't know that beforehand, but then I encountered one of those tools. And so that's kind of my history, where the path I did from, learning about the existence of ChatGPT in end of 2022 up to today, where, and that's the next point I want to talk about, my current tool chain comes into play. So currently I'm using a mix of those tools I just described, right? Currently what I'm using when I'm really drafting a patent is, first of all I do in my work for clients is completely offline. So I don't use cloud software like ChatGPT or anything else, with one little exception I'm going to tell you in a second. But for the real drafting and for the real, processing of the details of the invention that's underlying the patent application to be drafted, I only use fully local offline tools that run on my local computer. What I do use is ChatGPT for all with a local model. These days it's Llama 3.2. And together with Rowan Patents, that's this integrated drafting environment I was talking about. I don't think we have time for a demo today, because I want to keep these sessions here below 30 minutes. But there's some other videos out there where I've talked about this tool combination, right? A local LLM, in my case, it's run by ChatGPT for all, and it's Llama 3.2, and an integrated patent drafting environment like Rowan Patents in my situation. Why this combination? You might ask, because even why GPT for all? Anyway, when Rowan Patents has its own AI chatbot, well, for me, that's one little downside of Rowan Patents. Yes, they do have local LLM support. They have their own small small language model integrated in the Rowan Patents, but it's kind of integrated in a way that I don't really find it too much useful. What I prefer is to have, and that's maybe a takeaway also for you for your work. What I tend to do these days, and that was also a realization I had recently. I've only tried this style of drafting out like 3 times now, I guess. Whenever I start a new patent application, whenever I start a new project, right, I open up a Rowan Patents project, right, a new file where that's basically my cockpit. Okay, I'm going to show you real quick. So let me get to the screen sharing and let me fire up my Rowan Patents. So real quick, so I'm going to start a new application. I'm going to select my template file, my usual template file. And so I have, the whole skeleton of the application with some boilerplate language already filled in, which I always use. That's my cockpit. That's the integrated drafting environment where I really produce, where I put in all the text, right? And at the end, I can export this into a Word document, which is then the full application, and also a PDF comes out with the drawings. Rowan Patents also has a nice drawing editor. Too much for this video. But what I'm also doing whenever I start a new patent application is I start up GPT for all, and I start a new chat. I name the chat with the file reference of my new patent application, and I keep this chat for as long as I'm drafting this application from start to finish. And what I do is I really have a conversation, an ongoing, continuous conversation with the AI when I'm drafting the whole application from beginning to end. What I also do is GPT for all has this ability to include local documents. So it can read local documents. And what I do is, of course, I dump in the invention description I got, right? The IDF, the invention disclosure form. I add it to the chat here. So Llama 3.2 can read it. And so I can have a chat with my AI assistant about the invention. Then I draft my claims. Then I ask the LLM about the claims and maybe ask it to challenge the claims, things like that, to suggest, different wording, things like that. Once I have the claims finished, I take them and copy them into Rowan. And then the work basically iterates between Rowan Patents on the one hand and the chat on the other hand. But the nice thing about having one chat throughout the whole process of drafting one patent application is that you always have the chat, the model always has this history in mind, right, of what you have been talking about concerning this invention, and it always carries with it this memory of what you were discussing beforehand about this specific invention. So it has a lot more context. I'm on my way to compile this exact tool setup, but first and foremost, especially this workflow I'm doing, let's say the method, the process, how I do a patent drafting project. I'm going to compile this also in an online course. This will be kind of my masterpiece, I guess. So it will still take some time. So I hope this will be out there in fall later this year. Hopefully, I'm really proud of that course because it will really show my whole method, my whole process. So yeah, let's see how that plays out. I'm gonna hurry up. If you wanna stay in the loop and get informed when that new course is online, then you might want to go to powerclaim.io, my website, and there's at the bottom there's a sign up form where you can put yourself onto my email list, so you will be the first to know when the new course will be online. Okay, so summing up this tool setup, so the roles of these tools basically are in my setup. On the one hand, GPT for all with the local model, Llama 3.2 these days. The role of that tool is basically my assistant, my co-pilot, right? I have a conversation with it about the invention. I'm brainstorming, technical effects, patentability arguments. I have it review my claims. I have it challenge my claims. I have it write parts of the description. I've done videos about that too. And on the other hand, I have Rowan Patents, my integrated patent drafting environment. Here I create the drawings, I auto-generate reference signs, I keep them consistent across the description. Rowan does that really nicely. I also create terms and manage their definitions. Maybe let me show you real quick. So that's a nice feature of Rowan Patents. So when you write your claims, that's how I do it most of the time. When I'm writing my claims, I go through the claims and select, the key terms which I need to define in my patent application, and I turn them into it's called terms in Rowan Patents. And those are then kind of objects which can be reused in all sorts of places throughout the patent application. So let's say we are writing a patent application about AI and machine learning. So one key term would, of course, be, let's say, large language model, right? I would create that term, and then it creates this little box here where I can insert a definition of that term. What I do is I use Perplexity AI for coming up with definitions of technical terms. And that's the one exception I was mentioning in the beginning. That's the one online tool I'm using when I'm drafting patents, because I only use it for standard technical terms, right? Not for invention features, but only for standard technical terms. So in this case, I would say something like define large language model for a patent application, right? And it then comes up with a nice definition, and I would then put that into Rowan Patents to have this term defined then in my patent application. As I said, this becomes an object in Rowan Patents, and you can insert it in various places, keep it consistent, things like that. So that's pretty nice. Okay, so that's basically the role of Rowan Patents, and together Rowan Patents together with a local LLM like GPT for all. I think that's a powerful combination. As I said, I'm currently customizing the whole tool chain to my needs, and I'm also refining my workflow. There will be this masterpiece video course of mine where I really show the exact tool chain, my process when drafting a patent application from end to end. So from the invention description as input up to the ready to file patent application. Again, get on the mailing list for updates on powerclaim.io. Okay, so that was basically the first part, the longest part today about patent drafting. The second topic I want to talk about was document analysis, because when I talk about patent drafting, I always start from the perfect invention description, so to say. But thinking also about in-house patent professionals, maybe, I mean, one of your tasks is, of course, to, let's say, encourage the inventors, right, to come up with very good invention descriptions before you pass them on to the external patent attorneys. So I was wondering, well, how can AI maybe also help, expand and enhance invention descriptions? And I also, it's not only useful for in-house patent people, but also for external patent attorneys like me, because I mean, when I get a new instruction to draft a patent application, and when the client sends me the invention description, I'm starting from zero, right? I have to read it and I have to understand the invention. And I was wondering, how can AI help here? So this is kind of more exploratory in my state of mind right now, because I just recently started thinking about this use case. What I found very interesting recently was a tool called NotebookLM. This is actually, I've talked about this in another episode where we were listening to an AI generated podcast, because that's what this tool can do. It's an experimental tool from Google called NotebookLM, and it lets you create a project. You can dump in documents, and then you can also have a chat with a document. You can have summaries of the document, things like that. So maybe that's an interesting tool. Of course, the question is, you have to answer that yourself, whether you want to use this for processing invention descriptions. I don't. I don't use an online tool like this for working with confidential information. But on the other hand, Google NotebookLM is quite interesting, because if we look into the privacy policy, I have it here. It says that as long as you have the, I think it's called Google Workspace account, the paid account, which I do, it says that as a Google Workspace user, your uploads, queries, and the model's responses in NotebookLM will not be reviewed by human reviewers and will not be used to train AI models. So sounds pretty solid, I would say, in terms of confidentiality. Nevertheless, I don't use it productively. Nevertheless, I wanted to show you this tool quickly. So what you can do is you can just upload a document. In that use case, you would upload the invention disclosure, right? I don't have one here, and I wouldn't show it if I had. So what, as an example, we can just do is upload just, let's say, a scientific paper. I have here the latest paper from an Austrian university about XLSTM, which sets out to be kind of the OpenAI killer, right? Sets out to be an artificial neural network structure which is supposed to be superior than the transformer architecture, which is the basis for all other LLMs we know, like Google Gemini and ChatGPT. And it's also a valid use case, I guess, because in my experience, when I'm working with universities, they often send me the paper draft as the invention disclosure. So this is a good starting point, maybe. So let's just, as an example, dump this paper into, no, that didn't work. Let's see. I think I have to say create. Here, okay. Now I can dump the paper here into the notebook. And once Google's AI, Gemini, has gone through the paper and has analyzed it, it even gives me a summary right from the outset. It says this research paper explores the development and evaluation of a new type of recurrent neural network called XLSTM, designed to overcome limitations of traditional LSTMs and so on. It introduces exponential gating and novel memory structures. So I do know that paper, so I know that this summary is pretty accurate. Gemini has picked up pretty nicely on, let's say, the fundamental aspects here. It also gives you suggested questions, or you could just now start exploring the invention, right? You could say something like, how is it better than the transformer architecture? And you can just have a conversation with the AI model about whatever document you have put in there. And here we have the answer. So it says several advantages of this architecture over the transformer, linear computational and memory complexity. That's really the main difference, I would say. That's interesting. Gemini really picked up on that nicely. Unlike transformers, XLSTM exhibit linear computational and constant memory complexity, whereas transformers are, I think, quadratic. So pretty nicely. I could also think about doing something like give me a list of key terms that make up the invention. Maybe as a first, starting point to dig deeper into the invention description. Why not let the AI give me a list of the key terms so that I can focus on those? Okay, it's about XLSTM. Yes, exponential gating is an important feature. Normalization and stabilization, modified memory structures. Pretty nicely, I have to say. So this could really be a tool like this. Could really be a nice way, to dive into a new invention more quickly than you could if you just had, the document and you would have to read it on your own. All right. So, of course, as I said, NotebookLM is a cloud-based tool. I don't use it productively myself for confidential information. So, an offline alternative again would be GPT for all, right? You could also do basically the same thing here. It's in a different UI and some features are different, of course, but the idea is the same, right? You have these local docs in GPT for all. So you could add, let's call this XLSTM, and let's just add this document. Add the paper here, and now it gets indexed by the AI. So the AI model is trying to read through the document and index it. And once that is done, you can also chat with the document in GPT for all, basically as you would do in the notebook I just showed you. Okay, we're running out of time, so no time for this demo. Also, I think we don't have time for the third topic I was planning, client communications. Maybe that's up to next time. So in that sense, let's call it a day, I would say. I hope you found this helpful. If you did, check out my website, powerclaim.io. That's the place where I host my online courses and my live webinars on the topic of generative AI for patent attorneys. So again, it's powerclaim.io. I'll put the link into the show notes. And in that sense, thanks for tuning in and see you in the next one. Bye-bye.